Welcome to the $1 Billion Podcast, a weekly show about the entrepreneurial journey and making it big in any industry. We're your hosts, Joe White and Kane Daniel. Welcome to the $1 Billion Podcast. I'm your host, Joe White, along with my partner in crime, Kane Daniel. Hey, Kane, how's it going? How you doing? Good to have you with us.
Hello.
Today, we're excited to be joined by JD Lee. Hey, JD, it's great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. JD is a mortgage agent level 2 in Ontario and a broker in Alberta and BC with Mortgage Architects. He's also a member of the Alberta Mortgage Brokers Association Committee and has experience as a real estate investor. In today's episode, we'll explore JD's journey, his insights on working across multiple markets, and what it takes to succeed in real estate and finance. So let's dive right in and hear how JD's making his mark.
And just JD, before we do that, I wanted to share sort of how we found each other, because we're at Remick here. Joe and I think we have a good handle on the industry, especially in Ontario where we are based. But I saw your post on LinkedIn a little while ago, and it sort of really, I think, spoke to exactly the reason why we're doing this podcast. In that post, you talked about when you started out 10 years ago, leaving everything behind. I assume you mean, based on what you said, that you came from another country. You said you barely spoke English, fresh off the boat, out of the military, came here, had a lot of naysayers, really didn't have a lot of money or anything set up, or it sounds like any contacts. So sounds like a really amazing story that I think is not that uncommon in this industry, which I think is lesser known, but is good inspiration for those that are from any walk of life that are in the same position or similar position that you were in at that time. So maybe if we can, tell us a little more about that. Tell us how you started out, what made you leave, how did you decide to get in this industry? Maybe give us the origin story.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually majored in kinesiology back home, and I had this opportunity to visit Canada and travel around and work and make money, make new friends and stuff, right? So I actually came to Canada probably 2014. I work at a restaurant and make great tips and make really great friends. And, I just wanted to start something new, right? That's how I started it. And, stay in Canada for about 9 months. And I decided to come back and get into college, state in Calgary. I took finance and worked at a bank for, a few years, and, started my journey as a mortgage broker. So, in a nutshell.
Okay, there's got to be more to it, a little bit more to it. I mean, one of the things that leapt out at me was Calgary. Why right. Calgary?
Well, back in the day, I would say Calgary was a great city to move in, but not now. It's way too expensive now. But when I actually moved to Calgary in 2014, I heard there's a lot of jobs in oil and gas, and I was not going to work in oil and gas, but I heard that Alberta is one of the richest provinces in Canada, right? So I thought there was a lot of job opportunity, but not really, and housing pretty expensive now. In Vancouver and Toronto area, it was out of reach for me, because I literally came to Canada with $2,000 in my pocket. So that was not an option.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you came with only a couple $1,000s in your pocket. Tell us about the challenges that you had initially, and maybe how you overcame those, and
right.
Not to pile on the questions, but what it takes to overcome those types of challenges.
Yeah, I have just a very strong mindset. I do not wait around. I am hopeless. So I make shit happen. So when I actually came to Canada about 10 years ago, I only had $2,000, and I was not speaking very good English back then. I was able to communicate with people, but it wasn't that great, right? So what I did when I moved to Calgary, I literally walked from downtown to deep south. I hand out my resume to every single restaurant, and I told them, "Hey, my name's JD. I'm looking for a job. I can do whatever." And it took me probably like a month for me to get a job, right? So I have this type of personality. That's how I started it. Does it make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. And that must have translated well into business, that type of drive and determination.
Totally. I think, everything is about mindset. You would never fail. That's how I say it.
Now, JD, that resilience and that mindset that you talk about, is that something that you've always had, or is that a learned thing in your life?
I would say I was a pretty strong kid too. I was not a pushover. And I actually learned a lot in the military too. And also I said I majored in kinesiology, right? So I worked out a lot, like early years. So I always have to challenge myself. Hey, like, is this your limit? Can you actually do better? Can you actually do more, right? I always push myself. I have this mindset. And I believe that, hey, like, if you want to make it work, you can make it work. There is no excuses. That's how I see it. But some people, they're really blessed, right? I mean, you have certain physical, traits, when you actually play sports and type of thing, right? Those things you cannot change. But if you want to be a top 10% earner, top 10% producers, you can be on that top 10%. But in sports, you have to be number one. So it's different, right? So I believe that you can be on top 10%, top 5% if you push yourself to your limit. That's how I say it.
So, follow-up question about that in your childhood. I'm going to ask what type of kid you were, because I find it interesting. I have two kids. I have an 11 and a 7-year-old. Kane has two kids. And sometimes we see traits in children, like, traits that we have as we're kids, that parents may say, you know what, just be quiet, sit down, and don't bother anybody.
Right.
But those aren't necessarily the traits that, if you're that way, those traits don't necessarily serve you well when you get older. You sit down, be quiet, and don't bother anybody.
Right.
So, right. What kind of kid were you? Were you the type that was outgoing, constantly getting on your parents' nerves, and now you just took that resilience and drive into your adult life?
Yeah, right. So I am not quite agreeable person, if that makes sense, and I love debate. And I actually got myself in trouble. Even right now, I argue with people all the time. That's not how things work, and I have different perspective. So I love sharing my own perspective, and I believe that sometimes that get me in trouble. However, people. Well, my strategy is to attract the right audience. So I don't really care about haters. If you hate me, that's totally fine. I'll make you hate me more. That's totally fine. So I just focus on the right audience and attract those people. They want to work with me. That's how I see it. And as a kid, I always talk back, right? And back home there is hierarchy, and if you're older than me, that type of thing, then I have to treat you differently. Then I don't believe in that. If you're 50-year-old, that's totally fine. Okay, I'm 33. Okay, we can be friends. We can have conversation. That's how I say it. But back home, not so much. If you're older, you just have to do what I tell you to do. That type of thing.
Mm. And that didn't sit well. You had a bit of a rebellious nature to you.
Well, totally. So in the military, you kind of have to suck it up.
Right.
So I learned a lot of patience. But again, I always been like that. So I cannot really change myself. Even mortgage community, I always argue with people. Hey, like I don't think that's the right way. You could be right, I could be wrong, and I could be right, you could be wrong. So I'm not afraid to share my thoughts and perspective, and I am willing to be criticized if they have valid points. But if they're just making some stuff up just to attack me, then I'm not gonna just sit around and just be quiet.
A discussion is definitely important. I think this is how issues get solved or consensus is made. So it's especially if you are being respectful, if everyone's being respectful, it's good to debate. I think it's good to have differing opinions. That's really the sort of start of having a solution, as I mentioned. But JD, I wanted to ask.
What I'm hearing, Kane, is that my kids and your kids are going to be very successful.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Very successful at arguing. And having and the resilience to keep going like an Energizer bunny forever and ever. And ever.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads me back to JD, because I wanted to ask you about. I mean, we talk a lot about motivation and resilience and being disciplined. I'm wondering for you, was there or is there is there something guiding you to that? Like going to the restaurants and walking every day to these restaurants, dropping off your resumes, that drive, where do you think that comes from? Like, what do you want? Like, what's the motivation behind all of it?
I gotta eat. I gotta survive.
It's a strong motivator.
Yeah, right. Well, like I said, I learned a lot in my early years, and I always push myself to my limit. Right. So I do not compromise, if that makes sense.
And that's a testament to your success, right? Because not everyone will push harder when they're faced with adversity. A lot of people will, unfortunately, kind of curl up and not push harder. But in your case, you went out there, you were pounding the pavement when things were tough, and that's why you are where you are today. That's a great testament to your character.
Yeah, totally. Even right now, I have about 12 to 13 deals closing in October. But I have nothing for November and December. I know that it's a slow season, but whenever I have nothing to do, I try to generate more leads and answer more questions on social media. I do everything, so I don't just sit around and just wait for opportunity just land on my desk. If that makes sense.
So would you say that your sphere of influence, your social network, consider you the expert in this area for them?
Absolutely. I am. Well, I try to be very active on social media, not as much on Instagram anymore. But sharing your thoughts and perspective, that's my way to generate business too. Because even some BDMs from banks, they reach out to me for help and asking for my own opinion. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? I'm looking to refinance and I have this situation. Can you please share your insights? Well, it's a big compliment to hear those things from BDM, because they are an expert too, right? And I share my experience and customer journey and everything on YouTube channel, on Reddit, Facebook, just everywhere, right? And people reach out to me. That's how I do it, and I think it's more effective. I am very good, in person, but I think the impact is much bigger if I do that on the social media, because one-on-one you can only meet people one-on-one and you spend 1 hour. But if I can spend 1 hour on social media, I can reach out to hundreds of thousands of people.
You just don't want to get stuck in a trap of debating with someone online. I've seen a lot of that. And my wife does that. I'm like, what are you arguing with this person? Like, who cares? What are you getting out of that?
Right.
But if you're passionate, you might get into those that's like an endless circle. But I wanted to ask you as well, because you mentioned you were did kinesiology and then into the military. and then you got at the restaurant. What attracted you to the finance side? What attracted you to get to the bank and then come into the mortgage industry?
Honestly, I wanted to learn more about money. Even yeah. Well, I always interested in making more money, and like at this point, I am not really driven by to make more money. If that makes sense, I make enough money. I actually make more than enough. So I don't really care much. But back in the day, I was really poor and I wanted to learn more about money, how it works, and those type of things. So I thought finance can be a really good path for me to grow. But working at a bank, I quickly realized that it's not going to make me rich. And I was just representing the bank. And I was not really happy with it because they changed a lot of things, and I was really strong in investments, mutual funds, and other stuff. I was doing all sorts of things, right? Opening bank accounts and business accounts and business loans and personal loans, credit cards and everything, right? Investment and mortgages and everything. And I quickly realized, there's a better options out there. And my title is financial advisor, but am I actually financial advisor? I am not financial advisor. I am just a representative of certain bank. And I wanted to give more quality advice. Back then I thought, offering the lowest interest rate is the great, way to win business. And then I thought that was everything. But I start to realize, hey, it's not about interest rate. It's more about service and selling yourself. So I always tell new agents, hey, don't try to sell products. Don't try to sell, rates. Sell yourself. And if you sell yourself, they want to work with you. You can explain, different products and different strategy. But once you have built the trust between your clients and yourself, you're good to go. Sometimes you lose a deal. But again, that just has to happen. Right, but I barely lose a deal over rates, and I know that market is very competitive these days. But I am not losing a lot of deals these days.
Let me ask you a question about your time at the bank. Did you find that, and maybe even today, do you find that bank mortgage reps are well trained and well knowledgeable on what they're doing?
Not at all. Yeah, unfortunately not. I mean, I thought I knew a lot, but not at all. Yeah, mortgage brokering is very much different. And I really didn't like mortgages, I'm at a bank because too much paperwork and I need to wait around. But investment, just sign here, sign there, we're good to go. But mortgage, it takes a lot of time. I didn't like it. But now I love it because I have access to many different lenders and I can suggest a lot of different strategy. They were not as experienced. Some are, but most likely they're not.
Yeah, I think that's an important point that you made, and we talk about this a bit now with the education that bank reps have and the requirements for education that they have is not the same as we have in the mortgage brokerage industry. And part of that is because of the role, as you mentioned. I mean, working with a mortgage broker, obviously you're brokering the mortgage, right? Working with various lenders to find the correct product. You become the advisor. So I can see how you'd want to transition into that role, especially if you're really wanting to take care of your clients, which I'm sure you were. Seems like a good move. What did you struggle with when you moved over from the bank? Was that a hard transition? What were the biggest challenges that you had? And how did you deal with them? And specifically for bank reps, because we see more and more bankers coming in the industry. So for any of those that are listening that are thinking about coming in from the bank, I guess what advice would you have for them and what might they find when they come in?
Very good question. When I actually moved to mortgage brokering, I didn't know much about mortgages. I mean, I thought I knew a lot, right? And I actually start my career at a discounted brokerage firm. I don't want to mention the company. There's a lot
fair.
to it, yeah. But I don't really want to mention about the company anymore. But I was doing a lot of deals, right? I probably did like 100 deals, whatnot, while I was there, and I was selling rates. And I learned a lot by doing it because I called like thousands of leads, right? But I was not really selling interest rate. Trying to sell myself, and people can stay with me. That's how I did it. That's how I learned, and I got my Ontario license, right? So I was doing Ontario deals majority of the time, and well, like learning curve, understanding uninsured mortgages, and insurable mortgages. And there was a lot of workarounds, and you really need to, do a lot of deals to understand the workaround and all these rules around it. Because every single lender, they have different policy, and OSFI, they have their own rule, but some lenders, they do not follow those rules. So it's not really like a rule; it's more about guideline, and lenders, they have their own policy to follow it, and like it's like big learning curve, and like generating leads. There was not a problem for me when I work at discounted brokerage firm because they provide me all the leads. But now, I moved to an independent role about 2 years ago. Then I had to generate my own leads, and I had to live my book there too. So I didn't, take any of my previous clients over. So,
what was your split when you were getting leads from that brokerage?
Well, it's very complicated. I was getting salary, and
okay, all right, yeah, fair point.
Depending on how much you do on volume, they pay you probably 15%, 20% total revenue, but you actually have to pay the lead. So what that means is, each lead costs about $80 and $100, and if you buy 100 of them, that's going to be $10,000. So it's
yeah. Now, just to touch on something you were saying, because you mentioned a couple times that you sell yourself, and how do you do that? What are some of one or two ways that you actually do that from a practical standpoint?
That's a really good question. I don't know how I actually sell myself. It's so natural. I don't try to ask for business. When I actually start out, I ask for business, but that's not the way to go. I just tell them, hey, do you have any problem with your deal? Even when I, hang out with the realtors, right? Oh, like what kind of challenges do you have, right? And they share about, period experience, like mortgage brokers or certain banks, and you know what? That's not going to happen with JD. And you let me know if you have any hard deals, and I can take a look at it. I can give you insights. Not necessarily you need to work with me, but I can help you how to structure a deal, or even I can call the bank rep or mortgage agents to structure a deal, that type of thing. And I help one realtor get illegal basement suite market rent done. Like banks allow it, but appraisals stay afraid to do so, right? Some appraisals are okay with it. So I actually, share some information and, got that done. And the realtor, kept sending me business. So like, it's super natural. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah. It seems like it's a personality trait that you have, which is fantastic. And it's difficult to teach. And that's something we find is that individuals who are successful, sometimes it's an innate characteristic that they have, the ability to do that. So just to follow up on that, you mentioned when you hang out with real estate agents, like how would you do that? How would you initiate a relationship with a real estate agent?
So what I did, whenever I get purchase agreement, I looked at listing agents and the buyer's agents, right? So when I start out, I reach out every single one of them. Hey, my name's JD. If you have this problem, I can help you with that. Like that's how I position myself, and I start getting more deal, right? And I built a relationship, as I go. That's how I did it. And I speak Korean, right? So I actually focus on Korean community too, and I met great realtors in Korean community, and probably about 5 realtors consistently sending me business, and there are actually 3 Canadian realtor too. They're sending me business constantly. Yeah.
It's really good, and I think it really illustrates that it doesn't have to be complicated, doesn't have to be a difficult strategy. Sometimes just picking up the phone or going and visiting, and especially if you have a good personality and you understand maybe where their pain points are going to be before you even pick up that call. You understand that it's not about, as you mentioned earlier, it's not about rate, it's not about even fees, because you start competing with those and then you lose on those. So it really becomes about your value to them, your value as an agent, as a human. I think that's really, I think what you're saying is like your personal brand and focusing on that and focusing on your values. So really strong advice there. I wondering on that, if you see your role changing in the coming years with the emergence of technology and automation. Do you see the role of the agent changing at all? Maybe, I don't want to answer for you, but perhaps you might find more value in those personal relationships as technology takes care of a lot of the hard work. But interested to hear what you think about that.
So I try to stay humble, but I have this mindset. Nobody can compete with me. That's how I say it. Even AI, just anything, any automation, they cannot compete with me. And I believe that there is no competition in this industry.
What do you mean by that? How do you mean that can't compete with you? Like what is it about?
I am not replaceable. And whenever clients ask us a question, what do you think about fixed rate? What do you think about variable? Well, ChatGPT can give an answer and pros and cons and whatnot, right? But I am the person that can truly understand what they're going to do in the future and what is going to be right for their family, friends and family, right? So how do you feel about fixed rate and how do you feel about variable? Then okay, like I want to go with the fixed rate. And I don't just say, okay, that's a good idea. I tell them, hey, have you considered 5-year variable, right? Have you considered this plan, right? But ChatGPT, they are not able to offer this type of service, right? And, I have, prepayment penalty buddy, Matt, and I can give a really good quality advice on prepayment penalty too, and how to help them save more money. And also, I'm a real estate investor, right? So I teach my clients how to expand in a rental portfolio, and I share my story with them. I tell them, hey, all of my bills are being paid by rental income, right? Do you want this, right? So that is not replaceable.
I've always found real estate investing fascinating, and a lot of the issues that real estate investors have now is being a little upside down on their monthly income because rates went up. So maybe tell us a bit about how you got into it and your thoughts on real estate investing.
Right. I'm not going to share too much about my personal finance.
Sure.
But the way I see it is you really need to find a good deal. I don't really care much about interest rate because one of my rental property interest rate is 6%, and I got that done with the B lender. But it's cash flowing very nicely. I am making about $1,000 per month. Wow. So it's not passive income per se. You need to deal with a lot of issue with the tenants and everything, right?
And you deal with them directly, or do you have like a management company that deals with them?
I do deal with them directly, and it's very tiring. And I actually start to think, hey, like, do I really want to keep my rental portfolio anymore? Because right now my income increase, like $1,000 is pretty good, right? But the time management is also another thing as a business owner, right? So But again, I always tell my clients, if you're making, under $100,000, if you can purchase a property and they can generate $1,000 per month, they can help you a lot, right? And if you have 4 to 5 of them, and it can be really good, retirement plan as well. So I pitch these ideas. It's not about just getting just one mortgage transaction done and make quick commission and go away. I try to keep, relationship with my clients.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So do you find that people are open to that when you're talking to clients about maybe having a principal residence and a rental as part of their overall portfolio? Do you find that most people are open to that?
Well, I just suggested, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you thought about this too, right? And also, clients ask about 5% down payments and 20% down payments. Yes, it's not really applicable in Ontario area, unfortunately, because housing prices out to lunch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even in BC, it's not really possible. But in Alberta, I just asked them, hey, you're making great income right now, and I understand that you have about 20% down payments. So have you thought about expanding your rental portfolio, right? Then they're like, oh, okay, I thought about it, but I don't know how to start, right? Well, then I try to explain, hey, you know what? If you want to purchase a property, let's say $500,000 home, you can do 5% down payment. That's going to be only $25,000 as a down payment. Of course, you need to pay, CMHC insurance. However, I asked them, how long does it take you to save $100,000, right? So I asked them, hey, if you don't have any cash flow issue, why don't you purchase a property with 5% down payments? And if you have plans to purchase a rental, like a rental, property, then you may use that extra capital to buy a rental, or even stocks that can generate 10% year over year. As you know, S&P 500, it can generate anywhere from 8% to 10% annually on average, right? So I compare those numbers. So when I actually compare those numbers, they're like, oh, it makes sense, because if I do less than 20% down payments, I get better rate in most cases. Right. I can use the extra cash to make more money. So I just give them new perspective and suggestions, and if you're comfortable doing this and that, and we can talk. But if you're not comfortable, that's fine. It really depends on your risk profile too, right?
Absolutely. Do you do like any talks or webinars on real estate investing?
Not so much, no.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, just curious about business coming the other way. Like if you were talking about investing, would you get any mortgage leads from that? I don't know if that's ever happened or you've ever had that happen.
Not so much, but some of my realtor buddies, they know that I am good with
Right.
real estate investing and mortgages. So they actually sent me a few, real estate investors, and they are not, like a big, like a real estate investor, like a mom and pop, right? They wanted to purchase, legal basement suite property, that type of thing. Help them. Hey, I'm into market, and Calgary can be a really good option for you. And Bank of Nova Scotia has a really good program for that, and even TD Bank, and just teach them, and that's how I generate more leads, and people come back to me. That's the funny thing.
Yeah, I think that's it probably has a lot to do with the advice that you give, right? And the fact, as you said before, you're promoting yourself and not an interest rate or a specific lender, and people like doing business with people they know and they trust. So that's another testament to your business. What do you see in the future for yourself?
Future for myself, that's a very good question. I'm debating if I want to keep my rental properties, because it's a lot of work, and believe it or not, it's not passive income.
Right. Yeah. A lot of people think it is, right? But it's...
Yeah, I actually learned it, and it's a lot of work. So, mortgage brokering, I love mortgage brokering. I think I will be mortgage broker forever. But now I have established business. I can pick and choose. It's a little bit of luxury. And I am tapping into commercial space too. So I'm actually taking CMHC MLI Select, course soon.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to do. And I want to build my business over time, and I actually hire an assistant too. So if she can handle underwriting for me, then hey, I can generate more leads and help more people. That's how I say it.
When did you feel that you needed the assistant? Like at what level? Because I think that's something that people struggle with in the industry, that they don't want to hand any control over to someone else. But
Right.
there comes a time, right, when you're better served generating leads than actually doing paperwork.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I still do a lot of paperwork. My assistant, she doesn't have much of experience in mortgages. So she's just labeling my documents and going through down payments and that type of thing, right?
Right.
But usually I have about 10 to 15 in my pipeline. So it's really hard to manage, right? I've been working 10 to 12 hours a day. And if I have 10 to 15 in pipeline, meaning I usually close about 7 to 10 deals in a month, like that's a lot to handle, right? And a lot of broker buddy, advised me to hire assistant, and I've been procrastinating it. But it helps a lot because I hate compliance, and my assistant helped me with the compliance, and that's awesome. Yeah,
That's good. That's good. When it comes to advertising and marketing, do you do much of that, or do you focus primarily on social media?
I focus on social media, and I have a YouTube channel for Korean audience, right? So I am targeting specific community for now.
Right.
Although I get Canadian clients, I just focus on my community because it's a little bit easier, in my opinion. And I do advertisement on the Korean community too. But for Canadian clients, I do not advertise. But I thought about it, and I don't have much time to start YouTube channel for Canadian clients right now because I'm working so much. But once I have more free time, and I probably opened another YouTube channel for Canadian clients.
Okay. A lot of people that might be watching this and not in the industry right now, considering coming into the industry, now they can see from your experience that it's not an overnight success. It's not easy. You have to put the work into it. But what you mentioned that you're going to be a mortgage broker, for the rest of your career. What is it that makes you think that? What do you like about the industry that much?
I love mortgages. It's really challenging to deal with people sometimes. But I love numbers and I love mortgages. It's amazing. And meeting all these successful mortgage brokers too is very inspiring. And I noticed that they're really cool. Mortgage brokers and lenders, and I just love it.
It's a good community as well, right? The people in the industry are tend to be really, really nice and fun to hang out with for the most part, and giving when it comes to knowledge and advice.
Yeah, totally. And what I like about mortgages, you are putting pieces together, and you have to package it nicely, and you have to present it nicely to the lender, and you basically sell the deal to the lender.
Right.
And everyone, underwrite the file in a different way, right? So I think that's the beauty of it. There's thousands of solutions to one problem. That's what I like about mortgage brokering too. Oh, I never thought about this solution ever, but you actually got this deal done with XYZ lender. That's amazing, right? So I love the part, again, back to my childhood. I always, love discussing, over certain things, right? And sharing my ideas and look at things from different perspectives. Like, I think that resonates with my personality.
Yeah, for sure. Now, you also mentioned something I wanted to touch on. You mentioned about on the commercial side. So what piqued your interest in doing commercial mortgages?
So commercial mortgages, not specifically, I was setting a multifamily.
Okay.
Family, if you do like $5 million or $7 million, you know, it's. I just want to be very honest with you. It's less work, and those people understand the business, and I think it's much much easier for those investors to understand my position too, because first-time home buyers they do not fully understand, and like retail investors are not really exposed to a lot of risk, and they really do not understand the whole process. But investors that really tapping into commercial space, they understand, right? And I never really been pushed back, charging a fee on the B side or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But even commercial financing, they understand there's a lot of work behind the scene, right?
Right.
Even multifamily, some brokers charge 1% or 1.5%, 2%, right? So imagine you do $5 million, multifamily project. If you're making 1%, that's $50,000. It's great income, and I'm helping them, succeed, right? That's one of the reasons, and I want to have a few CMHC MLI Select project for myself too in the future. So that's another thing.
That makes sense. And you're going through CMHC. They have a training program for that?
I actually bought a course.
Okay.
From former CMHC multifamily underwriter. So nice. I'm actually taking that course on October 18.
Fantastic. You know what? There's more interest, I think, being generated in the commercial space because, that is, a very good point that you can do one transaction and make multiples of what you would on several transactions in the residential space. The challenge is always if a deal falls offside,
right?
But it sounds like you'd have the intention to maybe mix your portfolio of brokering between residential and commercial.
Yeah, totally. I would say I know 95% of residential lending now. Some cases I don't know, but most of the time I know the answer like immediately, right? But like commercial space, not so much. And I wanted to learn more. And again, I love learning about business. So commercial space is business, right? So I want to learn more, and I want to meet cool people. That's a part of the reason too.
And that's a great point that you meet other people that are in that space, and people that are investors or investing in multi-residential. They also, in many cases, have their own properties, and they get to trust you and may want to do their mortgage with you, or may want to invest in some private mortgages. So it's definitely a good move, expanding your network, especially with high net worth individuals.
Right. I love B-lending too, and dealing with, a lot of business lenders and, stated income program and, helping them with the tax strategy and everything. Right. So, commercial space, 100%, same logic. Right. So I wanted to learn more about business and, meeting new people. That's great.
Now, just one, I think maybe last question in regards to how you use technology now. What is your technology process? And some brokers do this differently. They'll say, I get an inquiry by phone, then I'll go out and meet with the client. Others will say I get an inquiry by phone or some other way. I'll point them to my online application. What does your process look like?
So I'm really old fashioned. So I use Excel for CRM. And, everyone talking about all this CRM and everything. But my question is, how many deals are you actually doing, using CRM, right? So I think Excel is just perfect. If you do a lot of deals, and you can probably use a CRM. And I think I need to tap into CRM system because my book is getting bigger and bigger. But when you start out, not so much. It's not that important, right? Getting the deal done. And
Shell is a CRM system, depending on how you use it, right?
Yeah, totally. It's all about how you use it. It's not about the system itself. So I use MacBook and Microsoft Outlook, right? And I have a phone conversation and send them a application link. They fill it out and collecting documents, and that's how I do business. I don't know how I can explain better, but I get it.
No, that's pretty straightforward. It is. It's a little bit different. Before COVID, most people were going out to see their client in their home or at an office. And now it seems like people have kind of been trained a bit to at least accept the online application process as part of, the standard process for getting financing.
100%, because when I work at TD, I never imagined, doing a mortgage and not meeting people in person, because it's a big chunk of money, right?
Yeah.
And how can I actually trust someone online? And once I actually start doing online application, you know what? It's not that hard, really. And at the end of the day, they have to meet with their lawyer, and the lawyer is going to confirm everything. So it works pretty well. And I am too busy right now. And I tell my clients, hey, if you have to meet me in person, unfortunately, I cannot accommodate that because once I step out of my office, I work from home, but once I stay away from my desk, my existing clients, they are not getting service right. So if you are my clients, I want you to be serviced, and I want to make sure you get the answer within 30 minutes, max 1 to 2 hours. So
okay.
Yeah, so I tell them, and if they're not comfortable, you know what? Unfortunately, I cannot, and you're more than welcome to find another broker. That's how I position myself.
All right, that's great. So there are some clients that you don't take, and that focuses you on the business model that you have and keeps you, I guess, centered on that business model, which is important because a lot of people try to be a lot of things to everyone and end up really losing themselves and losing their business model, and end up failing.
Totally. I think there's a trade-off. I am really good with in-person meeting. So I think, I could have, earned more business. But again, at the end of the day, this is my process, and this cannot be done under my process. I have to pick the poison, right? And some people don't really like my approach. That's fine. It's my business, and I run my own business the way I want it.
And that's the beauty of being in this industry, right? You get to choose the way you want to run your business, and you're not being told by somebody that you work for, this is how you're going to do business. You get to choose what makes you happy and how you want to run your business. And you know what? It's been fantastic. I've really enjoyed our conversation. Unfortunately, Kane had that blue screen of death and dropped off. Technology is sometimes a double-edged sword. But JD, it's been an absolute pleasure sitting down with you today. And I can see why you are enjoying the success that you are. So we wish you continued success, and would love to touch base with you again in the future and see how that commercial arm of your business ends up going.
Absolutely, Joe. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Thanks, JD. All the best.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the $1 Billion Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode.
For more in-depth entrepreneurial insights, follow us on social media, and for more info on the show, go to billiondollarpodcast.com.
See you next time.